Dan Fagella here with CLV Boost, and in this CLV Boost tutorial we'll be covering the topic of outbound email campaigns. In this quick tutorial you'll learn the difference between outbound and inbound email marketing, how to save tremendous amounts of time prospecting for important clients who require a phone or in-person meeting in order to finalize a sale, and specific case studies with CLV Boost clients and ideas for your own outbound campaigns. So the difference between out and inbound email marketing. Inbound email marketing is a little bit more popularly known and recognized. This implies marketing to people who've explicitly filled out a lead capture form or an email subscription form. This might be on your main website, this might be signing up for a webinar of some kind. This is when folks actively seek you out, fill out a web form, and say, hey, keep me posted, keep me in touch, let me get more of your information. And that's inbound email marketing, people coming to you, signing up, and then directly hearing from you after that. Outbound email marketing involves actively reaching out to people directly via email. Now it's important to note that you can't simply amass a list of email addresses and put them into a program like GetResponse or HubSpot because this is against the terms of service. This is technically referred to as spamming if you pop somebody onto an autoresponder list that they can't ever opt out of and they never opted into in the first place. So if you're going to be doing outbound email marketing, which is perfectly legal when done correctly, it requires other tools, and you cannot actually subscribe someone to a newsletter or ongoing communication that they didn't ask for directly. Hence, we can't use our traditional email marketing tools. We have to augment simple tools like Gmail to just scale our normal inquiry-based outbound messages. And we'll go into some quick examples there. So why outbound? Outbound email marketing is used when you can identify your target market directly and when their customer lifetime value warrants the effort to contact them individually. Basically, anytime you might want to buy a list in a niche or industry, outbound campaigns can be applied in place of or in addition to list buying. So here's a quick example. Let's say that you refurbish Macintosh computer products. We had a recent prospect call us here at CLV Boost, and they reach out directly to universities, top universities, and they like to get annual subscriptions where these universities will send them their broken Macintosh equipment, particularly laptops and computers that have liquid spills. This is very common in universities, as you might imagine. So what they would do is they would purchase for a rather hefty sum of money a certain number of colleges or universities in an email list or a contact list that they could then call, they could send them mail, they could send them email, etc. In addition to doing that, what they might do in terms of an outbound campaign is get together a large list of the email addresses of the people they're aiming to market to and be able to send out outbound email campaigns, not just send them mail pieces, not just give them phone calls. And we'll talk about how that can be done at scale and how that can be done very quickly and very cheaply in the rest of this tutorial here. So this might include, let's say, a legal software company aiming to contact owners of law firms directly. You might want to buy a list of law firms, but you can also collect a massive list of law firm email addresses in a pretty cheap manner, in which we'll talk about briefly. Or maybe you're a PR firm aiming to work with highly funded green tech or solar companies, in which case, again, the same deal. You could go buy a list of green tech companies online somewhere with one of these large list brokers, or you could amass your own list and go about outbound email marketing. Another example might be a consultancy aimed at contacting small software as a service business owners to sell very specific consulting services. Again, it's really tough to try to rank for those folks directly on search engine optimization. Although it's possible, it's probably intelligent and a long-term play, it's rather important to be able to reach out to those folks directly, and in any of these cases you could potentially buy a list, but it's arguably more effective and more powerful to be able to amass your own list. And again, we'll talk about how to do this. This used to be done in this fashion, okay? If I was looking to sell software to law firms, okay, and I was looking to contact the folks that headed up the office or the folks that owned that law firm, what I might do is I would Google search for the companies I'm looking for, individual law firms, maybe in a particular geographic area, maybe a particular type of law firm, whatever the case may be in the United States. And I would manually email them my pitch individually. I would say, okay, Stevenson and Smith in Chicago. Boink, sent them an email. Schwartz and O'Malley in Boston, boink, and I'd send them an email manually. And maybe I would collect all these emails together into a big spreadsheet, but maybe I wouldn't. I would just Google search them manually, send them these one-off pitches, and cross my fingers. This is how the game used to be played in terms of outbound email marketing. Luckily, things have changed, and this has become a pretty big part of what we do at CLV Boost. The new outbound approach is as follows. You pay somebody on Odesk $2 an hour to accumulate a massive list of your exact prospect match. So we've worked with clients who were spending $15, $20 an hour having well-paid folks in very expensive offices in Boston manually looking up let's say law firms or whatever particular kind of prospect they were looking for and manually sending one-off emails. That's a massive waste of resources, and ideally you can train someone who speaks fluent English, who can work for $2 an hour, whose entire speciality on the internet is to legally find email addresses and contact information for particular types of prospects. If you go on the website Odesk, you can also do this on a website called Elance, but I find that Odesk is actually a lot more cost effective, and you can find perfectly viable folks on Odesk for very, very, very low prices who specialize in this exact kind of thing. And instead of onesie-twosie, paying $20 an hour, amassing a slow, trickled list, you can have somebody for $2 an hour who's very, very good at this, in fact, a lot faster than the $20 an hour person, find massive, massive lists of these folks online by searching for the criterion that you ask for. And so that's done instead of the manual hunting and pecking. Then you can load these prospect lists into a tool like ToutApp, Yesware, or QuickMail, and these are all individual outbound messaging softwares. These can send to a lot more than one person at a time. In fact, many of them can send to hundreds at a time, and they simply augment your Gmail account in most respects, if we look at Yesware, ToutApp, etc., so that you can customize your email and send out to many more than one person at a time. And you can send out, again, multiple emails automatically, so you can send out sequences. Email 1 goes out on this day, email 2 goes out on this day, email 3 goes out on this day, and you can have those structured automatically, so if somebody doesn't reply by day 4, the second message kicks out. And this also has their name and their company in it, so it looks like it comes directly from you. They're not in fact subscribed to any kind of newsletter, but they are being sent a Gmail message without you having to manually type it. And in fact, you can plug this in for hundreds of these messages to roll out at a time. You can also split test your subject lines of your outbound emails to determine which one gets the highest open rate, click-through rate, and/or appointment rate. So think about it this way. If I send out, if I'm looking to, let's say, sell my legal software to law firms, and I'm hunting down email addresses for the folks who are office administrators at this legal firms across the country, I might send out, let's say, 200 of these messages, 100 of which have subject line A, 100 of which have subject line B. Subject line A addresses the admin person by first name directly in the subject line, and subject line B speaks directly to the value proposition of the software and speaks directly to its benefit in a very short sentence as the subject line. Now, if I roll out 100 of the namer ones to these admin folks and 100 of the value prop ones to these admin folks, I can determine using any of the tools that I had just mentioned, Tout, Yesware, or QuickMail, and there's probably more of them by the time you hear this recording. These are becoming actually rather popular. If I send out 100 of each, I can determine which of these tends to be getting opened the most, and which of these tends to get clicked the most if I have any links in there, and which of these tends to get me on the phone the most often. And so if I send 100 or 2 of each to the same type of prospect, I can now determine which subject line gets me a better open rate. And I can use that subject line now on thousands of prospects and be able to scale my efforts not only in terms of volume but in terms of the effectiveness of my marketing. The effect on the bottom line here is astronomical. If we're reaching out to thousands of potential prospects and we lift our open rate by, let's say, even 2 or 3%, we're talking about big differences to the bottom line every month or every year. And these are accumulative as well, in addition to the time and money savings by hiring the Odesk person, in addition to the time and money savings and increased effectiveness of scheduling these messages automatically as opposed to sending them out manually. And you can now use, again, your highest converting templates to contact the rest of your prospect database. So the old method would involve some $15 an hour employee accumulating email addresses, They wouldn't be able to send out any automated campaigns. They'd only be able to send out one generic copy and paste template. They'd send these emails out one at a time, and they'd have no ability to do any split testing or real marketing improvement. Now, with the new method, the way that we're commonly implementing here with CLV Boost and some of our clients, and the way we're advising other folks to go about doing it, is to grab somebody for $2 an hour on Odesk to accumulate email addresses much faster and more cost effective than you could someone here in the States. In addition, you can automate many messages in a row, and the copywriting process for writing those messages is its own training session here. But it's very important to note that you can schedule out multiple messages, which is much more effective than one. In fact, working with our clients, we've seen big responses from email 3, never mind email 1. Not quite the same number, but if you start stretching out a 3 or 4 email campaign, you might literally get twice as many phone calls, twice as many sales by simply being more persistent. And this can be done through automation, which we can do with the new method of outbound email marketing. In addition to, instead of sending out one email at a time, we can send out hundreds at a time. Literally, through a Gmail account, for instance, at the time of this recording, you can send 400 to 500 per day, which can allow for a lot of fantastic split testing, which is the last major benefit, is you can do constant split testing and marketing improvement. If you have a big prospect list, a potential list of, let's say, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 folks who might be viable prospects for your outbound marketing, instead of sending them all the same template, you can send the first 1,000 a split tested template, and you can find the winner and then scale that across the rest of your marketing. The amount of money that will boost alone in terms of proven increased response rate rather than just guessing is positively astronomical, and of course the larger your potential hit list, the bigger that might be in terms of your return. So an example of how this is played out in our work here at CLV Boost that might prompt your own ideas. We worked with a video marketing business who needs to reach out directly to fashion company CMOs to sell them on $25,000 video marketing projects. What they were doing before is they had expensive American workers in pricey Boston office manually searching for and one-off messaging fashion CMOs. These email addresses of these fashion CMOs were rarely saved, and the CMOs who didn't respond were almost never contacted again deliberately. Almost no persistence in terms of real follow-up. After working with us here, we had hundreds of new fashion CMO email addresses found daily by an Odesk team. We had 2 to 3 automated emails sent out via Yesware at a time, generating appointments fast. And all the email addresses were filed and saved for future campaigns and future outreach. We saved both email and phone numbers so that we could call these folks, in addition to being able to email them later on in case they didn't respond to campaign number 1. Another example of outbound campaigns that we've worked on here at CLV Boost was the natural products business. This particular business needs to reach out to small natural product retailers in California, Oregon, Washington, New York, and Vermont in order to get retailers to agree to put their products on its shelves. This is a business that really needs to get on as many shelves as possible and to stick with the particular retailers who are able to push a lot of its products. So in other words, it's got to get on a lot of shelves to find the shelves that work. Before working with us, there were some one-off phone calls and one-off emails occasionally sent to random retailers at random times. Afterwards, we had hundreds of retailers accumulated quickly thanks to an Odesk worker. 4 automatic and personalized emails were sent out 3 days apart. All these emails had their opens tracked, and those retailers who opened the emails were flagged for their interest and called immediately by the owner of this particular natural products business in order to stock that company's shelves with these natural products. So instead of doing one-off phone calls and one-off emails, we painted an entire campaign across hundreds and hundreds of retailers and then followed up immediately upon their opening, because we can track who opens these emails inside these outbound tools. So instead of calling these people out of the blue, we were calling folks who are already familiar because they're interested enough to open our previous emails, and this made a big difference. So when you're writing your own outbound campaigns and determining your own outbound campaign, you might want to think about the most important benefit you can deliver your prospect. and paint that picture vividly and succinctly in the subject lines and email body copy that you send out. So in terms of our natural products folks, we very quickly mentioned which kinds of retailers tended to be a great fit and saw great results in terms of selling this particular natural product, which in this case was a all-natural shaving cream, as an example of a product that we were aiming to sell. So we wanted to paint the benefits of its all-natural ingredients, of the fact that other smaller retailers really liked its niche and boutique appeal and its professional and boutique appearance. Very snazzy kind of packaging in this particular product, and that was painted very quickly and very succinctly and very clearly and politely into the email campaign that we had plastered out. Knowing what was going to appeal to these boutique retailers, they wanted to see unique and completely all-natural products, and we made that clear in the campaign in order to generate phone calls. You also want to keep the body of your messages short and sweet. If you're going to send out an automated campaign and it's going to be personalized, you don't want to write people a novel because Lord knows they don't have the time for it. You want to make sure that the subject lines and the email body copy very quickly and politely state what it is that you're trying to do and why you think it might be a fit for them, if in fact they're interested. And you want to actively overcome the objections in the email. So think, why might a reader ignore or resent this message? So in the example of our all-natural products outbound campaign, for example, a lot of these folks really feel like they don't have that much space on their shelves. A lot of smaller retailers are already really trying to cram their shelves with as many products as they can, and they often don't feel as though they have much space. So in order to directly combat that, that objection that we knew we were going to run up against, we had made sure that in some of the emails in this campaign, we made it obvious that they could order as few as half a dozen initial bottles to be able to put it on their shelves and see if they could get some initial traction. So we took away the tension of, by golly, do I have to buy 48 of these things at a clip in order to put it on my shelves? We made a very easy foot in the door, very low barrier to entry, knowing the objections that we were going to have to beat with these smaller retailers. And you'll want to do the same kind of forethought before you start writing your own campaigns. It's important to bear in mind that a large part of the effectiveness of an outbound email campaign is not just in the technical setup and execution, but in the tested and proved quality of your copywriting, particularly in the subject lines and the call to action, which requires a considerable skill. But it's important to be able to bear that in mind and again think about objections and benefits as you carefully write your own outbound campaigns if you choose to do so. Alternatively, you can always contact us here at CLV Boost if you'd like us to write your outbound campaign or at least catch up on the type of outbound campaign you might be interested in and see if it's a worthwhile project and something that we think would have significant ROI for you. The various other services that we offer here: email sequence assessment, conversion optimization from purchase to appointment, subject line and email copy critiques, and much, much more, both on initial landing and sales pages and particularly in your email copy. So if you have any projects that you're interested in having us look at or at least consider, you might check us out here at clvboost.com/strategy, or you can email me personally at dan@clvboost. I'm always happy to catch up. Thanks again for tuning into this CLV Boost tutorial, and best of luck with your marketing.